Well, we continue to get you all these updates. I want to go across to Abhishek Kapoor in the Noida and the Delhi studio who will get us more on the developing stories and today's burning question.
Thank you, Shivani. Thanks for joining viewers this Sunday evening. You must be really concerned about the country to be watching the burning question this Sunday evening, and here are the headlines.
Burning question.
The Shinde camp moves the Supreme Court, seeks urgent hearing on disqualification notice against him and his MLAs. Another minister, Uday Samant, arrives in Guwahati. 9 MVA ministers and 39 Sena legislators with Shinde now. Aditya Thackeray attacks the rebel camp, says the Sena symbol will stay with the Uddhav group. Teesta sent to police custody till July 1. Explosive details emerge of how accused colluded to fabricate the evidence. BJP clean sweep in UP Lok Sabha by-polls, wins in Rampur and also the SP bash in Azamgarh. Prime Minister launches a scathing attack on opposition from Munich, calls out the vaccine critics and corruption under the opposition when they were in power. Welcome viewers. Zakia Jafri is in her 80s. I have seen her being brought in on a wheelchair to courts in Ahmedabad when I was in the Gujarat bureau. She would want justice in camera sound bites like any victim should, and then would seem lost. Sometimes it was painful even to be a witness to her struggles. Had it not been for a slew of petitions and manipulation of due process of law by vested interests. The punishment given in Gulbarga Society case that came in 2016 convicting 24 rioters could have come in 2006 or 2008. If justice delayed is justice denied. Who was behind this denial to Zakia? It now turns out so-called human rights activists like Teesta Setalvad and a group of disgruntled Gujarat police officers fabricated evidence, falsified testimonies, pressured witnesses, sensationalized, politicized and kept the pot boiling. For not a tittle of evidence. These are not our words. These are from a 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court, which finally gave a verdict in a petition only fronted by aging Zakia Jafri, but guided by Teesta and her accomplices. Such brutal abuse of legal procedure available. Had political backing with the avowed objective of targeting one man, Narendra Modi. Let's discuss why the then Chief Minister of Gujarat and now Prime Minister of India was made the target of a long campaign of calumny, conceit, even holding constitution in contempt. So we ask, ladies and gentlemen, was Narendra Modi target of this abuse of law with political objectives in mind? Was he seen as an only possible challenger and hence the entire ecosystem was coordinated to corner him? We debate after this short report.
The allegations against so-called activist Teesta Setalvad is piling up.
उस वक्त जो यूपीए की सरकार आई, उसने ढेर सारी मदद करी है तीस्ता सेतलवाड के एनजीओ को, ढेर सारी मदद करी है, सबको मालूम है, पूरे लुटियन दिल्ली को मालूम है।
गुजरात में तो आपकी सरकार थी, इतने
गुजरात में हमारी सरकार थी, मगर जो एनजीओ थे उसको भारत सरकार ने मदद करी है, सब जानते हैं। और केवल मोदी जी को टारगेट बनाकर ये सब किया गया, पॉलिटिकल गेन चाहते थे।
Following the Supreme Court judgment and fresh FIRs, the Ahmedabad crime branch has detained Teesta Setalvad.
Now, an SIT has been formed to make sure that the investigation gets carried out in the entire of the three accused. Now, the SIT is being headed by the top police officials, including Deepen Bhadran, who is the Gujarat ATS chief as well as of now. Apart from that, the SIT will look into the entire conspiracy of Teesta Setalvad, Sanjeev Bhatt and Sri Kumar as well, as to how the entire conspiracy was carried out, how the entire modus operandi of the three accused had been to fabricate the evidence.
The crime branch claims Teesta has refused to cooperate.
सेतलवाड़ और श्री कुमार दोनों आपकी प्राथमिक पूछताछ में सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं, ऐसे
सपोर्ट नहीं कर, दोनों
नहीं कर रहे।
And while Teesta is trying to play the victim card, the cops have a clear response.
बेसिकली जो है उनको मैजिस्ट्रेट साहब है उनके सामने प्रोड्यूस किया जाएगा। उनकी जो भी कंप्लेंट है वो मैजिस्ट्रेट साहब के सामने कर सकते हैं।
Former aides of Teesta Setalvad have made this shocking claim about scripted affidavits.
देखिए, ऐसा है कि जो एफिडेविट उनको बनाए गए थे, जो उनको पता ही नहीं था कि इसमें लिखा हुआ क्या है, तो वो बेचारे वो कैसे बोल सकते थे वही बात जो एफिडेविट में लिखी हुई है। जो सच्चाई है वही तो बोलेंगे, वो उन्होंने वही सच्चाई बोली है वहां पर।
And of direct political links.
तो ये सब क्यों कर रही थी तीस्ता, किसके कहने पे कर रही थी?
तीस्ता जो थी वो असल में क्या था कि कांग्रेस में जो अपने अब इस दुनिया में नहीं है, अहमद पटेल के संपर्क में थी पूरी तरह से। अहमद पटेल से वो हर मामले में बात करा करती थी, अहमद पटेल जो बोला करते थे वो करती थी। और स्थानीय जो हमारे कांग्रेस के लोग थे वहाँ पर, जैसे कि हमारे शक्ति सिंह गोहिल है और दूसरे कांग्रेस के उस वक्त के नेता थे, उनके संपर्क में रहती थी। और उस वक्त उनके साथ में खास तौर पर ये सारे प्रोग्राम और इस तरह की बातें उनको विक्टिमों को सिखाने वाले सोहेल तिरमिजी थे, वो इन सारी चीज़ों को सिखाया करते थे। और एफिडेविट जो बनाते थे उसके बारे में उनको बेचारों को कुछ मालूम नहीं होता था, लेकिन ज़बानी तौर पर अगर उनसे पूछे तो वो बोलते जो हकीकत है, और आज भी वही बोलते हैं जो हकीकत है।
The questions about a larger plot to milk an unfortunate riot, play with sentiments of the victims and propel falsehoods has come to the fore.
And now we have also gotten the exclusive details of the remand copy in which it categorically states as to how these three accused had carried out the conspiracy of fabricating evidence and how these three accused had in fact gotten in touch with each other, what really was the modus operandi. Because in the FIR itself it has been written that 19 witnesses had been tutored by Teesta Setalvad along with Sridhar and Sanjeev Bhatt as well.
और जो गलत निवेदन उन्होंने लिए, गलत एफिडेविट उन्होंने करवाई, ये सब किसके कहने पे की और उसमें उनका क्या फ़ायदा हुआ है, ये सब जानने के लिए उनका कस्टोडियल इंटरोगेशन अत्यंत आवश्यक है। और ये जो बात हमने कोर्ट को बताई वो कोर्ट को सही लगी।
But some continue to bat for Teesta. Tonight, the burning question is who let falsehoods on the Gujarat riots thrive and at whose behest? Let's debate.
Well, joining us on the debate from the BJP, Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the party, and then to punch holes in Teesta's defense, Madhu Kishwar, who has had herself a long history of engagements with Gujarat, to defend Teesta if they can, Ashutosh Mishra, senior journalist live from Delhi, and Tausif Ahmed Khan, advocate and political analyst, joining us live from Kolkata. If I could begin with Tausif. Tausif, we just heard in the package a close former aide of Teesta Setalvad, Rais Khan. I've been personally witness to how closely he used to work with Teesta for over a decade, telling us how Teesta tutored witnesses, how she forged affidavits, she wrote them for herself and made the witnesses sign, leading to a situation when the SIT questioned the same witnesses. There was such huge divergence of accounts and statements that everything fell flat. You think it was in the interest of justice for the activists like Teesta and those who were backing her to be doing this, Tausif?
No, democracy stays alive because there are social activists who are alive. It is not a crime for a social activist to file a suit case in a court of law against a pogrom which cannot be denied, where thousands of people died, where clearly state was burning for 3 days, and the chief minister was the person who is now the prime minister. It is not a crime to go before the court of law and seek justice. What we are seeing today is exactly opposite of what Constitution of India expects from social activists to do. You cannot deny that Gujarat was burning.
Well, it's no crime. It's no crime, but it's crime to fabricate. Forgery is a crime, Tausif. Sanju Verma wants to answer that. Sanju Verma, he's saying,
yes.
I asked the question whether forgery was right. He said it's a part of democracy.
We must.
May I please? You know, Abhishek, I heard Tausif. Now I hope he extends the courtesy to me.
Judge
This is not a way to debate. He's had his say. Let me please come in. You had your say.
Has to be investigated.
Abhishek, this is not the debate I want to engage in.
Let Sanju answer you. Whether that's democratic, what Teesta Setalvad did?
Oh, I will answer that question. I won't take too long. Let us be very clear about one thing, Abhishek, and your audience needs to know that the decision, the judgment, the observation by India's apex court, the Supreme Court, that matters more than any other institution in this country. And the Supreme Court has spoken categorically with no ifs or buts whatsoever. And I will read out the Supreme Court judgment of 3 to 4 lines, ad verbatim, without adding or deleting any comma or full stop. The Supreme Court said in its 452-page judgment regarding the Gujarat Riot case that the antecedents of Teesta Setalvad need to be reckoned with. They go on to say that Teesta, please, I did not interrupt you. This is not the way to debate. Please ask this man to keep quiet. Why you rattled? Did I interrupt you?
You are misleading your viewers.
Sanju, you go ahead. Sanju, you go ahead. Don't get distracted. Go ahead.
It is a SIT finding.
Not speak if I am
it is a finding by the SIT. There is no finding by Supreme Court. Supreme Court is not the court of trial.
Sanju, please clarify whether you are reading from the Supreme Court judgment or you are reading from the SIT report. Just clarify. Tausif wants to know that.
First and foremost, let me be very clear. What did I start by saying? I started by saying I will quote ad verbatim what the Supreme Court said in its
You know nothing about legal procedures.
Yes,
and you're
and
coming here and lecturing.
So don't teach me about law. Sitting here and giving a bhashan about how great Teesta Setalvad was, you should be ashamed.
You don't know
of
the
calling
law. You are
Abhishek,
misguiding the viewers of Republic Channel.
I will not debate. Please continue debating.
Sanju, let me come in. Tausif, let me just come in. Tausif, let me just come in. Sanju, listen. Tausif is just asking whether you're quoting from the Supreme Court verdict or the SIT report. Just clarify and go ahead. Don't get distracted. Just clarify and go ahead.
I am not getting distracted, but I will not allow myself to be heckled because I was very polite. I did not heckle this man. I need to be extended the
No,
same.
he's not heckling. Just go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes. Let me tell you, Supreme Court in its 452-page verdict, in some places it has quoted the SIT and in some places it has made an observation. That is not important. The semantics are not important. The crux of the argument by the Supreme Court was this. And
from judgment you have come down to observation.
I repeat myself. The Supreme Court noted in its judgment that Teesta was guilty of furthering her own, in brackets, inverted commas, ulterior design by exploiting the emotions and sentiments of the appellant, Zakia Jafri, the real victim of the circumstances. The fact is, Teesta Setalvad has been booked now under 3 heinous and very grave sections, Section 468, Section 471, and Section 194 of the ICC 20 seconds. And you know what these sections pertain to? They pertain to forgery, they pertain to perjury, that is lying under oath, and they pertain to creating forged documents to secure a capital conviction. And who was Teesta trying to secure capital conviction for? It was none other than gossip here.
Sanju. Yeah. No, listen. Let me come in now. You have made your point. No, let me. You are talking about a fresh investigation that has just started. Sanju, let me speak now. Let me take the debate forward. Let's not get stuck. You are talking about a fresh case, which has just started. Teesta Setalvad is now in police custody till July 1. And there are some serious charges, some of which mentioned in the Supreme Court verdict. Now, we are not denying the scale of the tragedy. Forget about the tragedy itself. But you look at the point of view of victims as well, the kind of delay that has taken place, the point with which I began. If I could go to Ashutosh on that. Ashutosh Mishra. And by the way, let me introduce Madhu Kishwar. She has just joined us now. Madhu, you have had a history of your engagements with Gujarat. I'll come to you, but let me take this question to Ashutosh first. Again, coming back to the phone-in I had with Rais Khan, because he had worked closely with Teesta. He was saying that there were clear political connections based on which Teesta could do what she did in terms of abusing the process of law. Remember, this is during a period when UPA was in power. He has taken the name of a Congress leader who is no more, so I am not taking the name because he can't be coming back to defend himself. Ashutosh, you think there was an alliance between the Congress and these NGOs, Teesta being just one of them, which led to denial of justice to the victims, like Zakia Jafri?
So, to answer your question, we have to go back to the observation of Supreme Court in 2009. When it said that Nero was fiddling while Rome was burning. And who was the Nero that Supreme Court was referring to? It was...
Oh, you're comparing apples and oranges. Come on, Ashutosh, please. Argument for the sake of argument, no. I will not allow that. You are talking about something which is not connected with our present debate. Please understand,
it's connected.
We are talking about
if you let
some
me connect
Supreme
the dots,
Court verdict.
Then you will understand.
In the immediate present. No, it's not connected. It's not connected.
So let me connect.
It's not connected. You're talking about something which is about 2003, 2004, not of 2022. Please talk about the present verdict, the observations made, and the question that I asked you of Rais Khan clearly mentioning that in his presence, Teesta would be talking to Congress leadership at that time, taking guidance, strategizing together.
So, Abhishek, you are taking one person to be Raja Harishchand. Let me connect the dots for you. At the same time, there were allegations that the victims are being pressurized to change their statement. Number one. Number two, even at that during that time in 2002, the Prime Minister at that time had Atal Bihari
Where is that? Is it there in the Supreme Court verdict?
Raj Dharma not being followed. What does that mean?
It's not there in the Supreme Court verdict, Ashutosh.
He wasn't convinced.
It's not there in the Supreme Court verdict, Ashutosh.
So let's come.
It's not there in the Supreme Court verdict, Ashutosh. And remember, for
interject every time you find something uncomfortable.
No. Listen, Ashutosh.
You are
digressing. You are diverting. Let me get Madhu Kishwar on that note.
Madhu Kishwar saying that things have to be proved in court against you.
Ashutosh, no, you are not being fair. You are diverting and digressing. You are not answering my question. Whether there was.
If you stop heckling me and listen to me, then only you will get the answer. Na? You ask other people not to heckle and you are constantly heckling me. Just be patient. Let me complete what I am saying. Give me my 30 seconds. So, when you talk about this gentleman...
Go ahead, finish it.
So when you say that this gentleman, you quote the gentleman, you believe him to be speaking the truth. What about those observations? What about the charges made then that the witnesses were forced to change their... statements.
Where are those charges, Ashutosh? Where are those charges? What we are talking about is the Supreme Court judgment which has dismissed Zakia Jafri's petition, who was only a front. Everything, this petition itself started with 67 pages, ended up being 514 pages as part of that protest petition. Now let me go to Madhu Kishwar. Madhu Kishwar. No, Ashutosh. Madhu Kishwar, you have to get in now. Madhu Kishwar, Ashutosh is saying that these witnesses were tutored. He is admitting that these witnesses were tutored, but as a counter to pressure on witnesses from the other side. Can this be believed?
Actually, they're quite shameless. They're not going to keep quiet. They're going to come and filibuster endlessly. So let me just get to the point. Number one, they're still lying that Modi was Nero fiddling. The truth of the matter is, in my entire life, and I have investigated several riots, I can stick my neck out and say,
these were, don't be shameless. You are inciting the Supreme Court of India. It was the observation of the Supreme Court of India. Don't shamelessly try to defame the Supreme Court of India. It's not my words. It was the words of the Supreme Court of India which said Nero was fiddling.
Going to be heckled? You're not protecting me.
Let me just quote from the Supreme Court then. Let me give you Supreme Court's word.
Please protect me. Please ask. Please mute him.
Madhu, just let me give Ashutosh what Supreme Court has said. Then Madhu would answer. Ashutosh, Supreme Court has said that an attempt has been made to question the wisdom of this court. Now, Madhu, go ahead.
Okay. Firstly, as far as propped up witnesses are concerned, her own right-hand man, Rais Khan Pathan, not only went to court, but he has given video-recorded interviews, not just to me, but many others, who said, for example, how he and others were hired to scout for victims and then help them fill fake charges. And Anand Fananme, she had a whole team which would come with cyclo-style forms. They didn't even go to court. In relief camps, Teesta had organized that the government should come and allow her team to fill complaints and register FIRs. Now, the fact of the matter is, all her witnesses collapsed under investigation. And the worst case is not just this Zakia Jafri case, where she was proven to be a liar, but take the best bakery case, where Zahira Sheikh, she sent Zahira Sheikh to jail because Zahira Sheikh wanted to tell the court the truth. She had taken her under custody. She was making millions of rupees in her name, had kept her captive in her house in Bombay, and she was inviting people to listen to her so-called victim story with lies, lot of lies added to it. And when Zahira Sheikh said, you promised me rehabilitation, here you are making money for yourself. And what did she do? She went to court, and with a pliable judge, she managed to get, Zahira Sheikh sent to jail for going back, allegedly for going back on her testimony. But what Zahira Sheikh told the court was, I'll be killed if I don't follow her dictated testimony. This is the kind of pressure she had put on victims. She had and she propped up numerous false witnesses. It's not just in Zahira Sheikh case. In all cases, and that's why they kept collapsing.
You gave the example of Zahira, Madhu.
She ruined many lives,
but let me just focus on the
Maya Kodnani. And Maya Kodnani. She got her implicated when Maya Kodnani was nowhere on the scene. And a completely innocent woman was nearly hung to death because of Teesta Setalvad. She's evil personification.
Both Sanju and Ashutosh are raising their hands. Yeah, as they say, example is better than pretext. Let me just give you more specific example, Ashutosh, and then you answer. Nanu Mia Malik, one of the witnesses, he says in his affidavit that Madina Banu was raped during the massacre. Madina Banu, when she comes before the SIT, she says no, she was not raped. Now, whom do you believe? The victim or someone who's tutored, who's making an alibi?
You see, that's what, if you had heard me the last time around, that's what exactly so if you had heard me the last time around, that's exactly what I said. And Madhu, and you are quoting a man who has accepted that he is willing to work for money and fakery, indulgent fakery. So first of all, let's put that man's reputation in public domain.
No, what about Madina Banu? No, Ashutosh again. What about Madina Banu? What about Madina Banu?
when I quoted the Supreme Court 2009 judgment, at that time there were reports that the victims and the witnesses are being pressured to change their stance. So whom do you trust? What they said the first time, or when the witness turns hostile? It's happening even in, if you see in Delhi also, in Delhi Riot case, so a lot of witnesses have turned hostile and
Sanju, Ashutosh seems to be normalizing.
She is insulting Supreme Court.
Ashutosh seems to be normalizing tutoring of witnesses, which the Supreme Court has found so preposterous that the Supreme Court suggested that action should be taken against those who carry it out.
Sanju, you have to take the social angle also.
Maybe we heard you. This is not the way to debate. This man is going on and on and on. Please hold your horses.
This lady does not let the other people.
Sanju, make your point. No personal attacks, make your point. No personal attacks, make your point. Sanju, make your point.
We heard you. We heard you, Ashutosh. Please keep quiet. I did not
Sanju, make your point.
Make my point.
Sanju, make your point.
You know, I'm not heckling you. I was completing my point. Please tell this lady I wasn't heckling her. I was completing my point.
Yes, Ashutosh, you have completed your point. We have allowed you to do that. Now, Sanju, make your point.
Yes. And stop saying this lady, I have a name, my name is Sanju Verma. And now please ask this man, that is the language he understands, to keep quiet.
Again, Sanju,
ask this man to keep quiet.
Okay, I am taking your name, Sanju, please make your point. Otherwise, I'll have to go to Tausif.
Call people dumb.
I have to get Tausif also involved.
May I? Abhishek, may I? Thank you.
Sanju, please finish your point.
Abhishek, you made a very
please go ahead. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
You made a very interesting point, Abhishek, about the so-called alleged gang rape of Madina Bano, and Madhukeshwar also made a very interesting point about Zahira Sheikh. We all know that Teesta Setalvad first tried to tutor Zahira Sheikh. When Zahira Sheikh turned hostile, Teesta Setalvad had the audacity to say that Zahira Sheikh is lying. Once upon a time, Rahid Khan Pathan, who was there on your channel today, Rahid Khan Pathan was a close confidant of Teesta Setalvad. But once he broke away from Teesta Setalvad, she said Rahid Khan Pathan is also lying. Now, I want to quote one very important gentleman in this entire Gujarat riot case incident. 8 years after the riots took place, his documentation has also been used by the SIT and by the Supreme Court. We need to take it very seriously. Dr. J.S. Kanoria, he said in 2010 that there was this narrative that was peddled that a pregnant woman called Foster Bano, she was 8 months pregnant, and that her womb was ripped apart and her womb was completely destroyed. She lost her child and she was mutilated. But Dr. Kanoria says that when I conducted her post-mortem, I found out that she died due to natural causes. It was a bad accident. Her womb had not been ripped out. She was not raped. She was not mutilated. She was not murdered. Who asked Foster Banu to give a false testimony against Modi? Teesta Setalvad. Who asked Zahira
these are facts we know. These are
Teesta Setalvad. Who asked
Sanju, these are facts we know.
Teesta Setalvad.
Right, Sanju? Let me come in now. I have to take this debate forward, Sanju. You have made your point. These are facts we know. But the question that we are pursuing, the question, Sanju,
are you out of your mind? In your hatred for
Sanju, hold on. Sanju, let's take the debate forward. You have made your point. These are facts we know. Tausif, listen. Sanju, hold on, please. We are not going anywhere. You are now heckling me. For God's sake.
And give certificates to Narendra Modi. How dare you?
Sanju, you are now heckling me. This debate is not going anywhere. Please. Tausif, now, Tausif, you know, the larger question is, like in the case of fake encounters narrative, when in the Ishrat encounter, 2 affidavits were filed at the intervention of whom we know, the then Home Minister P. Chidambaram. Similarly, in the Godhra riots cases, the strategy to keep them lingering on, as observed by the Supreme Court, to keep the pot boiling, happened at a time When Narendra Modi, the then Chief Minister of Gujarat, was winning election after election, he won 2002, he won 2007. The BJP, his party, won all the seats in Gujarat in 2004, 2009, not 2009, and his star was rising. So did the Congress dispensation at that time find it very convenient to use Teesta Setalvad and a couple of disgruntled IPS officers who have been mentioned again in the Supreme Court, to use them and in collaboration with them to execute this plan of misuse of legal provisions so that Gujarat narrative continues to linger in national memory and thus somehow helps the Congress party? Tausif, you believe that this could have happened, which now needs to be investigated, as said again by the Supreme Court? Tausif, did you get my question?
I'm answering your question. Be patient. You have to be patient.
All right, I think there's some video issue with Tausif. Ashutosh, if you can take that question briefly, but brief answer. Narendra Modi was the target between the Congress party dispensation at that time, the ecosystem, and Teesta Setalvad.
You know, at that time, the only thing which everyone was worried about, and there is a lady who is now a minister in the Modi government who went on a protest, sat on a protest in 2004 when Vajpayee ji lost the election, blaming Narendra Modi and Gujarat riots for the defeat of BJP and NDA at that time. So to say that everybody at that time was targeting Modi is unfair, because at that time Modi wasn't the star that he became later. Why would Congress target him at that time? It was simply a case of a chief minister failing in his duties. What did Narendra Modi say in 2013? He said that if he is sitting in the back seat of a car and a puppy comes under the wheel, he feels sad. He should tell us who was driving that car in Gujarat when the riots happened. If he was sitting on the... somebody has to take the responsibility for the failure at that time to control the riots.
And hopefully,
you don't even have the...
Ashutosh, riots are long over. It's been 2 decades. Accountability has been fixed. Court cases have seen convictions. Everything under the monitoring of the Supreme Court. But what is important is that 2 decades after the tragedy, there has to be a sense of closure. And that happens when you stop misusing the law and constitution. On the other side,